are recording. Call the meeting to order at 7:16. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? The only adjustment I'd like to make is, I hear we have new faces tonight, so maybe go around the room and do some introductions.
Would you like me to start?
I'd love you to start.
So Eric Lopez from Stratford.
Nell Donaldson from Stratford.
I'm Will Davis from Sharon.
Kathy Galuzzo from First Branch.
Sylvia Moore from Sharon.
Michael Livingston from Sharon.
Ray Ballou,
All the board members.
Technology.
Tara Weatherell, Business Manager.
Anna Adams, Chief Academic Officer.
Go online.
All right, do you want to start? Stacy Peters.
Stacy Peters, Hancock, Granville Hancock Board.
Bill?
Bill Edgerton, Rochester Stockbridge. Nice to be here.
Thanks, Bill. And Bill Smith.
I'm trying Bill Smith, Chelsea. First Branch.
I'll go next. Sue Kay from FBUD.
I'm Peggy Ainsworth from Royalton.
Nancy Pejui. Yeah, Nancy Pejui, Bethel. In the car on my way there.
And Stacy Dion.
Stacy Dion, FBUD, out of Tunbridge.
And we have new faces. I don't know. Do you want to go?
Yeah.
You're the next board member.
So, Dustin Ray, Stratford.
Hi, Dave Dubay from Royalton.
All right. Do we have everyone?
We got everyone?
Do we get everyone?
Nancy, we're saving you a seat.
Squeeze on.
All right, guys. We'll welcome everyone.
You keep going, then I'll grab stuff.
Approve the minutes of Tuesday, February 17th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Seconded.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? If not, so moved. Board correspondence? I don't have anything. Anybody have anything?
Can I just say something under there?
Yeah, you can.
Just, there's a lot of communication that is coming out of the Rural School Community Alliance, and I'm just want to make certain old board members that want the regular communication are receiving it.
I am not.
And if you're not,
I'm not.
just email me, please, and I will get in touch with Margaret to get that fixed. White River Unified District, I tried to get that fixed for you. Are you starting to get emails now?
Yes.
Okay, so anyone that wants regular, like at least twice a day communication,
It's a lot.
That's
all right.
Be sure you
let me know, and then I'll make certain to get your emails on it. Margaret would be happy to get you on
I think
that.
that's
So just send me an email.
Jamie, to you. You again.
So you have my report in hand. One of the things, I emailed the board, I've been trying to keep you abreast of what's going on. I sent you just recently the Senate Ed version of the, education transformation bill. I want you to really dig into that some, and then I'm happy to answer questions if folks have it. I just want you to see, like, within those structural changes of the supervisory union is also in I want to get his name correct. Bongart's?
Vanguards.
I got it right?
Yeah.
All right, bill, that it does require forced mergers of like districts within the supervisory unions. So, as an example, what you'll see is it's very prescriptive. It would say those districts that currently operate pre-K 6, as example, in RSU, but it would be broader because there's other districts being brought on that SU umbrella, would mean required district mergers of Stockbridge, Rochester, Sharon within RSU. Okay? Wow. So just for example, within that bill, those that operate pre-K 8s or K-8s, Stratford, Tunbridge, Chelsea. If you look in there, those are already designated. And Heartland is also a K-8 within that map. So I just don't see supervisory union and don't think that that doesn't require mergers. There are district mergers within that supervisory union makeup. All right, there's about 4 districts is what happens within each one of those supervisory unions. So just wanted to highlight that. So please read that over. And why I want you to highlight it is that this is just Jamie, okay? But what the feeling I am getting is that is a bill that could possibly be reconciled with the governor, as compared to the House bill right now. Okay, so we were talking a lot about the House bill. I'm going to testify in House tomorrow. For me and the Alliance, I think one of the wins is that we broaden the makeup of the non-voting membership within the commission that's going to design the proposals of what these districts could look like, and also request that they don't rule out supervisory unions. Because right now their language in the House bill, which, they took and just started drafting off the governor's proposal, is that the only governance structure are districts, supervisory districts. Okay? What's the big difference? Well, within a supervisory district, just like you're seeing in the governor's bill, it is going to be one board, okay, within those district structures. And being able to legally allow in some of our rural districts where choice is Granville, Hancock, a necessity in order to make certain that families are able to get to appropriate locations when you go into that valley. It's incredibly hard to have a unified district and carve out any choice. That's not going to be challenged in court. All right, so the governor's bill attempted to do this through this lottery system. All right, a supervisory union structure would still allow, and it's why in Bongard's bill you see those like districts to provide some choice within the supervisory union structure. So if you watch me testify tomorrow and see me emphasize the idea of supervisory union, I want you to know that's why. I also want you to know that if you look at the data that we have, which is limited, it indicates rural districts and supervisory unions are at or less than some of our larger districts in regards to ed spending. All right, so that is something we need to highlight as well, is that not necessarily bigger means more efficient. And I'm going to also just emphasize this idea that we need to name. The whole idea of larger supervisory districts is to depersonalize the decision-making in closing schools. And instead of saying that is the preferred supervisory structure, I think that our elected officials in Montpelier need to be transparent and name why they think that's the ideal structure. So that is how I plan to testify tomorrow. With House Ed, this week's big in regards to the House because they're going to put a bill forward out of committee this week. And if we could get the supervisory union structure included in their bill, that would be a huge win for us at this point. All right. And just a reminder to the board in regards to all that, at some point, we still have to have bills that are reconciled with the House, the Senate, and the governor. And the governor is signaling that he will veto the budget until he feels like he has movement from the House and Senate. All right, and there's no override of that veto.
So, sorry, when you say he'll veto the budget, that's
I mean
the
the state
state
government.
budget, not the school budget.
Yeah,
No, the whole thing.
the whole state budget. You can go to the YouTube, which I think you all do as well as me, but I can send the link in the morning first thing if you want. It'll just be on the House YouTube. The Alliance is going to testify from about 9 to 9:45.
And then you're on after that?
No, I'm with the Alliance.
You're with
I would
the
not have been on without the Alliance.
Okay.
And again, it's really clear, supervisory unions, we don't have a voice right now with the VSBA and the VSA.
Interesting.
Our voice is coming out of the Alliance. So that is how Elaine and I are testifying, is that the Speaker of the House got the Alliance in front of House Ed. So your work to join the Alliance is helping us right now, big time.
All right.
The other thing is, this is big too, just today in House Ways and Means, I've only read it through once, so I'm not prepared to comment on the details, but I'll share this with you as well. Some of you that are represented by Rebecca would have received this in your emails. House Ways and Means did get a bill today that they started to look at in regards to the foundation formula. And if you just heard public assets tonight start to talk about, there's going to be different categories into the non-homestead rate. That is in that bill. But to be able to really flesh through what it means for us as a districts and supervisory union around the base amount and funding, I mean, we'll have to analyze it. I just don't have those answers yet. So it's exciting times. I think that we did a good job of ramping up appropriately early on in this conversation. I think now is an important time that we, emailing directly to our representatives or to members of Senate Ed or House Ed as board members, yes, we can send joint letters, but I will tell you the alliance is being effective because they're being inundated with folks commenting to them. All right, that's what got the Speaker of the House's attention. So as individual citizens and board members, please take the time to craft a letter and get that out to Senate and House Ed and House Ways and Means and Senate Finance, because those are the big committees that are going to be making these decisions. Otherwise, listen, one of my highlights this past week on Friday was we brought, because I got to talk education and kids, right? We're working really hard in regards to trying to combat chronic absenteeism, and our chief academic officer really highlighted this starting last year, and you saw that brought into part of our social emotional goals. And Michaela Martin, our intensive programming system support coordinator, is working on this with us, and Mary Schell, our community school coordinator. So we received a $25,000 grant that's allowing us the funds to partner with our local pediatricians to get them to come sit with our student support personnel, our Claire Martin folks, your principals, and nurses to talk about how do we work to support our families, to meet them where they're at, to try to help get them in school. And what you're going to see is that we're really trying to change this conversation from truancy to chronic absenteeism, because missed seat time is missed learning time. And spending a lot less time focused on excused versus unexcused absences. Yes, we have to track that. Yes, we have to have procedures, but really we just need to work with families to make certain we're getting them into our building so we can educate them. And so that work's happening, and what we did is we brought together principals, all of our admin assistants who really do this work. They're the ones taking the phone calls and talking to our families. Nurses, the local pediatrician was with us from Health Hub, and Dr. Miller, Dr. Becky Falk, and all of our school counselors and student support coordinators all did a training on Friday with Nick. Thank you. I want to call him Foster every time.
Okay, Royalton resident.
Yeah, who's a Royalton resident, works for Montpelier Roxbury, but really brings a great expertise in how to shifting the conversation around truancy to chronic absenteeism. So that felt really good during our SU-wide in-service day on Friday afternoon, and we got really positive feedback from that. So I just wanted to highlight that and take any questions folks may have.
Good comment. The other thing that I think happened recently, and I know this because Rebecca emailed, was the fact that the legislature is settled or is settling on a yield bill. And there's good news and bad news. The good news being that they're holding the yield at a reasonable rate. The bad news is that they're using surplus monies and monies from other funds to buy down the yield, which will mean that all things being equal, next year's we will see a significant property tax increase because we're starting from a negative perspective as a state next year yet again.
Yeah, no, thank you for that.
Anything else for Jamie? Any questions for Jamie?
Good luck tomorrow.
Good luck.
Thanks, Bill.
Have fun.
9 o'clock, Jamie?
Yeah, 9 to 10.
On.
Turn. Okay, thank you very much. So you again, yeah, you have my report. We'll talk a little later. I'm really excited to have Jeb Interlandi here for our celebration of learning to give a little bit more of a view into what the ELA program looks like in our schools. So he will talk more about that. He's worn a lot of hats this year, and I think he's probably wearing all of them in this presentation because he's got a lot of different views in on how this program has worked in the first year rollout at First Branch. So I'm excited about that. Jamie talked about we had our last SU-wide early release day on Friday. The attendance piece was one of it and was one part of the training, and a number of other groups met in kind of job-alike professional learning communities, and they wrapped up that work for the year. And we also use it as an opportunity to get some feedback for what next year looks like. And as we try to do in our classrooms, or differentiate as much as possible. For some folks, that cross-school work is the most valuable part of their professional learning. They're, a standalone in their job. All our arts teachers come together, and that's how they put together the Art and Soul. That's happening on Thursday. Lots of things like that. For some folks, working within their schools can sometimes be more powerful because of what they're working on in terms of trying to get some vertical alignment. So we will continue to adjust and make sure that we're trying to hit as many people's needs and make the most use of that time, because we know it is incredibly valuable time, and our community bends and flexes a lot to make that happen for our professional learning. So we will continue to work on that. We're working on some grants and preparing for some professional learning this summer, both on the math and ELA side. We've got some things in the works, as well as some potential work around capstone and integrated learning to think about those capstone projects. And then the last part of the report sort of came out of a conversation we had back in December when our first trimester ended in our elementary and middle schools around the proficiency-based report cards. There was a request to just see more of that. So you've got both a copy of a template of a letter that goes home to families explaining the proficiency-based report card, as well as just some snapshots out of some report cards. This is not a call for you all to try to solve report card issues you may hear in your community. This is just to get, provide you with information, have you see what they look like. Ask us any questions here. Michaela Martin's here. She worked very hard on these report cards. Ray has done a lot on the technology side of it, so happy to answer questions about them, but to make sure you all see what they look like, especially if you're not a current parent that's getting one at home for your own child. I think that's it for me. So happy to answer any questions.
Phil.
Yeah, hi. On another action-packed, impressive report, as you always do and provide us, I was very pleased to see the student report cards. My gosh, what a difference what it used to be 80 years ago. So much more informative. And when you go down this stuff, I find it amazing, starting with the K section of the excerpt of the report card, of how much we're measuring for our kids, generally in mathematics and English language arts. So I just think I appreciate you sharing that with us. We get a better sense of how we measure and what we're measuring, and I think that's going to bode well. I hope just curious, are the parents now pretty much comfortable with this? I might have asked that question before, but what's the scoop there?
Silence maybe is the best measure. We don't hear anything about them, which and our principals haven't told us anything that they're getting any confusion. I think there is a lot of information here, so I imagine for some families we could do a better job of continuing to unpack what some of these proficiencies mean. That's sort of our work to do, but in general, we have heard either zero or positive feedback around it. So I think.
Well, again, congratulations for pulling that together.
Stacy set up in her Texas. She gets them for her kiddos, and she's very impressed with them.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Yolanda. And we are on to Director of Special Services. Had you taken that?
Yeah, and if you have any questions and I can't answer them, Michaela's here too, but I mean, in general, We're in the thick of hiring. You're going to see when you get your expenditure budget that we had struggled to be fully staffed this year, and there's savings in the special ed salaries. That's where a big chunk of that's coming from, is us not being fully staffed. So we've started early, and the good news is, if you can see here, we've already started to make some hires, one of which has already started this year, but 4 others that are joining us here for next year. So that's feeling good. And I'm feeling pretty confident that the special ed staff that we have in place will continue with us for next year. So I don't think we're gonna, I actually think we're gonna be fully staffed next year, where we haven't been the last few, which feels good. Probably feels good for our candidate for Director of Special Services too. The other thing I just wanted to mention in regards to this report is that Haley Zorhide and also Annette and our principals have been working to just do a little bit more, I would say, proactive planning around summer services to try to make certain that we're able to meet all of our students' needs. We struggled sometimes with staffing our summer services in a way that we felt like it was truly filling gaps around either gap filling or trying to make certain that we're going to have as much lost learning, right? It's really about filling gaps for regression. So the hope is to have a 5-week summer intervention this summer. Where in the past, sometimes we were only able to offer within our one plan of programming 2 or 3 weeks of intervention. The goal this year is a full 5 weeks of intervention. So just wanted to highlight that as well. And then certainly we can take any questions folks may have.
Any questions?
No, just that's really good news for those kids in the summer.
Yeah.
Both well for them, their families, for the next school year, for their classes. It's great.
All right. Business manager.
So you all have my report. It outlines what's happening in the business office for reporting during the month of April. It's a busy reporting month because Q3 closes, or quarter 3 closes at the end of March, and we have to have all of our state and federal reports in by the 15th of April for what happened during quarter 3. And then Parker, if you could put up my projection, please. So starting on the expenditure side, items that weren't budgeted for was our newsletter that went out, as well as the Windsor County Sheriff contract. Areas that we are currently overspent and projecting to be overspent is our workers' compensation due to the rates going up higher than we anticipated. And then paychecks is also doing our ACA, so Affordable Care Act, for those who don't know what ACA means. All of our reporting based on the information that we have to report to the state and the feds based on all of our insurance for all of our employees. So they're handling that for us to make sure we're in compliance. And then items where we are savings, as Jamie mentioned, our budget to contracts for salaries, we have about $527,000 in savings there. Health, FICA, and CCC tax, that's the child care tax that came into play last year. We got about $86,000 there. And then special education tuition budget to invoice, we're saving about $533,000. We do know that there are several schools that have not invoiced us yet, so that number will change over the next quarter. So right now, we're looking at potential surplus on the expenditure side of 1.1 million. And then on the revenue side, we got a little bit more title funds than we had initially budgeted for, to about 35,000, so that will help. And then the next section is on special education. So due to the fact that our expenditures are down, it also directly impacts our revenue because excess cost, extraordinary cost, is reimbursed based on how much we spend. So if we're not spending that, we're not getting that revenue. Our IDAB grant, same thing, that's reimbursement. So we have to spend the money and then be reimbursed. So if we're not having those expenses, then we're not going to get reimbursement. So you'll see some shifts as far as what we had budgeted versus what we project to actually get based on current spending through January. So with the reduction in revenue, the potential savings on the expenditure, right now we're about $300,000 surplus in the SU for this year. And then any questions?
Thank you, Tara.
You're welcome.
Actually, Tara, I did have a question. I'm not sure I'm understanding it totally, but my interpretation of this is that you don't try to just use up the money so that you get the full grant?
No, you have to have the expense, so we have to
No,
have
but I mean,
students.
you don't go out.
No.
I know places where they will make sure that they squeeze every single penny out, whether they need it or not.
No.
But I think that's good, that you don't.
Bill, you have your hand up?
Yeah, Tara, under special ed, you've got the EEE grant. Would you refresh our memories on what the triple E's stand for?
Early education, so that's our pre-K kiddos. And that's a set amount that we get from the state. So our special education census block grant and the triple E grant are set by the AOE what we get each year.
Okay.
From trial count.
Yep.
So just to give an example, that can help support our early interventionists, which we have two, both that support our students in public schools, but also support our students who are supported by non-public school entities for pre-K.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Tara, can you give us an example of extraordinary reimbursement and that differential there?
So once we hit 66,000, that's where we get extraordinary reimbursement for special education costs for students. So if a
For
student.
a particular student?
Yep, so a student who is in one of our specialized placements, we cover all of the tuition, all of the contracted services that a student may have, so occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, any type of behavioral support that they need to have, any type of medical support that they need to have. So that's, once you hit that $66,000 threshold, then we can submit for reimbursement from the Agency of Education.
So how did we hit so much lower? Because we're keeping kids
Oh,
in-house?
Yep, we've.
Right, because we're
Kids
just being
in-house.
fiscally responsible and not sending them all out.
Well, also just trying to make certain we're providing as strong a program as we can here.
Class, yeah. Okay. It's extraordinary, the amount of money that saves, but then you don't get that, you don't get it back either, so it's a really sort of interesting.
Well, I mean, it is one of the things that I think as a state, this is why I think we should be pushing pre-K, early intervention services, response to intervention. Like, that's why those systems are so important.
Thanks, Tara.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you, Tara. Ray, that's a big boy table.
Yes, yeah. So Parker is going to pull my report up tonight.
No multitasking for you.
Yes. So WVRSU is fortunate to be taking on a cohort of interns this summer. This department has hired one. I think we're shooting for 12 across various areas that are going to support our community schools efforts. And so what this person will do in this department is work on the newsletter and our student information system transition to Alma. We meet with our Alma onboarding coordinator every week on Mondays, and we're making good progress there. And this department supported the building use at the town hall tonight. Calvin, who covers Bethel, dropped off and helped set up some equipment there. And we're about 60% started or completed for our VTCAT testing, which runs to the end of next week. And I did get that last E-rate filing done. So be happy to entertain any questions here or virtually. Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, thank you, Ray, for having this report in the 4th or 5th paragraph talked about how we support our communities. And what a great example of how our SUD and our technology team are supporting Bethel University with technology and also using our space in our classrooms to allow Bethel to have these wonderful, innovative free courses for residents in the area. And it's just another example where our community school, Bethel, it's not only vital, but it's working, and I think it's one reason why people are starting to more and more understand how valuable and essential community schools are, and the price that would be paid if they had to be closed. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to call out Nancy.
Yeah, I was just going to piggyback
Who's
on
our
that.
liaison to and
Yeah.
from BU.
We used this school for the majority of our classes this year. This was the first year that that's happened, and it was great. We've got the Promethean boards, and Calvin taught me how to use it so that I could then hook it up for all of the teachers that came in here. I would take a wild guess and say at least 100, maybe 150 people made use of this building during the month of March. And we had people coming from all over. We had students coming from Stowe to the north and Springfield to the south. They somehow found out about Bethel University, and but so yeah, it's been great. And that was my thought too, that the more we use this building and all of our buildings, the better our argument as to why we need to stay the way we are and not go to these ridiculous 5 district schools. But anyways, my personal thought.
Nice.
Great, and this will allow me the opportunity to say that I don't remember the name, but I know there's a very similar program in Sharon.
Cabin fever? Oh, in Stratford, sir? Or, oh, Sharon.
Stratford, cabin fever.
No, but
Stratford.
Sharon's got the,
Skill swap.
Skill swap. It's a little different.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
It's all right, Ray, we got you. They got Sharon name going out over there.
All right, anything else for Ray? Bill?
Yeah, I got to tweak Ray. Again, he's presenting this initials RMA. Okay, I know you all read that and you probably figured out what that was. I Googled it and figured it out. Return Merchandise Authorization. Is that right, Ray?
That's right, Bill. Yep, that was very frustrating, actually. Not that part of it, but to have a piece of equipment fail late in the day on Friday and not have the ability to, we were able to get support from the company, but not deal with the licensing and the RMA, the warranty part for the hardware, because those departments don't work on the weekend. Anyways, RMA.
I'm glad you overcame all the issues.
But it's, if I could just take 30 more seconds, that following Monday, I walked in the building about 10 o'clock to help Parker with something, and a student came up from the front office. They needed the temporary Wi-Fi password, and they did not know who I was, and they said, oh, is there a problem with the Wi-Fi? That's going to be a big issue because this building runs on Wi-Fi. I said, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so we are on to our celebration of learning, EL work at First Branch Middle School. I get to be surprised.
And I prepared a slideshow for you. First of all, I would like to say thanks for being here, and thanks Anda and Jamie for allowing me to present on EL education, which is a curriculum that we're using at First Branch in my district. My name is Jeb Interlandi. I know some of you, not all of you, but I am an English language teacher for the district. I'm a literacy interventionist, and I'm also working on my principal licensure and curriculum director licensures through UVEI this year. And I began the school year at Chelsea Public School, part of FBUD, as an English language arts teacher for 5th and 6th grades. And I'm excited to use EL education. I know it's being used, I think, at Newton School and I think at Sharon. But this is our first year rolling it out and implementing it. And as Onda wrote in her report, it was initially known as expeditionary learning. I think it was started in 1992. And it's gone through some transformation. And I'm going to try to provide a little overview of what it looks like now, how it's being used in our classrooms. And yeah, so what is EL education? Well, we're using it grades 3 through 8 at FBUD, and it is a comprehensive, standards-aligned English language arts curriculum, and it focuses on knowledge building, literacy skills, real-world application, and what I would basically say is that it's offering students some pretty rich texts, the books that we're using that I've seen so far in at least 5th and 6th grade. I've seen some of the 7th and 8th grade materials. The anchor texts are great. They're engaging for students. They have relatable characters. They're exposing students to the bigger world, to global communities, and I think they're finding ways to connect that to their own local communities. And I also want to say that one of the big things that they focus on, aside from just literacy strategies and skills to develop their abilities in literacy, is in the very first few weeks, we focus on habits of character. So students are learning the essential skills to be effective learners, and that's something that's offered explicitly through modeling, scaffolding, and we kind of establish those skills at the start of the curriculum, and I think that's great because one of the missions is we're trying to, as I said, create effective learners. A lot of the strategies we use in this curriculum involve collaboration, peer collaboration, discussions about the text we're reading, and effective communication, writing skills. So we're really focusing on how can we help these students become ethical people by developing the habits of character, good habits of character, as well as 21st century digital skills. And I'll talk a little more about that, but to look at our curriculum structure, there are usually 3 to 4 thematic modules per grade level per year. Ideally, you can get through 4. This is our first year using it, so we're kind of navigating it as we go. But we'll probably get through 3 books this year, and we're looking at complex texts and compelling topics, relatable, but also exposing students to different points of view, whether it's historical or part of the larger world. And it involves a lot of inquiry-based learning and a lot of collaboration. As I said, students are constantly engaged in small groups. They're learning how to facilitate and participate in enriching discussions. And a lot of these units culminate in a final project where students have to use multimedia skills, and that gives them a sense of ownership. They can also use some exploratory skills to connect their own interests to the topics that they explore within the curriculum. And just to touch a little more on the structure of the curriculum, it kind of was informed by the Universal Design for Learning, where there's a real emphasis to reduce barriers in learning for all students so that it can be accessible to a diverse array of students. And I think it is doing a pretty effective job with that. And it uses some of the key components in the curriculum. We do word analysis and vocabulary analysis. So students are using a lot of anchor charts. They're using language dives. Every class begins with an entrance ticket to build upon the last lesson that they talked about in class. And there's always writing opportunities. They're learning about essay structure and essay writing using the painted essay template, which I think was invented by a Vermonter, which is cool. And
A local one.
Local one from Stratford.
Oh, yeah, so that's even better.
From the SU.
Yeah. And I guess I will talk about differentiation. So this is very important in education. This is very important when you're looking at curriculum. Differentiation is how can we basically adjust learning to meet the needs of all of our learners and our students. Everybody has their own unique learning style. They might have certain barriers that make learning a little less accessible, and that is what we're trying to do, is make learning accessible to all learners. And even though this is a curriculum, I feel it's more of a framework where teachers can use professional judgment and some creative freedom within that framework to adjust instruction based on knowing their students, through ongoing formative assessments to gauge what their students might need to work on. It has built-in scaffolds, and it offers sentence frames and graphic organizers. These are tools that students can use if they need it, and it can make it more accessible to a variety of learners. And within this curriculum, we also try to facilitate, as I said, small groups of students so they can practice skills in communicating and collaborating with each other. Not always easy when you're a 5th grade student or a middle schooler, but those are skills we explicitly teach and explicitly practice so that they can become citizens, really. This is also for their future development for high school and beyond, so they can be effective communicators and community members and engage in civil discourse. And I suppose the next slide.
You want to show you had a slide with the text on it that I think we went by. Did you?
Oh, yeah. So this is a sampling of some of the books that we are using in the middle school. That top row is the 5th grade, and then it goes down to 6th, 7th, and the last 4 books are for 8th grade. I can say personally, I think these are engaging books. I know for a fact The Lightning Thief was a huge hit. Students loved it. That connected to Greek mythology, and it allowed for ample opportunities for them to explore related readings, to work on writing projects, and to do some of their own research on Greek mythology. Students loved it. They're currently working on The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, which is a great book about change makers and how one person can really, with the support of a community, make really positive changes, which I think is relevant to everybody. And so this is a little sample of the books that students are reading. These are the anchor texts that the curriculum provides. And yeah, we can go to the next slide. Yep, some of the ways that it engages students. Oh, that's okay. And it is English language arts curriculum, so again, it's about literacy development. It's about the 4 language domains, speaking, listening, reading, and writing, and it incorporates all of those elements and allows students to really strengthen those skills. And from what I have seen, it definitely contributes to a more positive classroom culture, which I think we'd all agree is a wonderful thing. Students really are developing those skills again to work as a community and work as a team in their discussions and sharing their thoughts, taking risks, while also engaging in some, academic rigor and basically developing their critical thinking skills. So these are some real positives that I've seen firsthand from this curriculum. And we did that slide. And so I guess moving forward, I would say this being our first year, it's been a really good process for the teachers who are using it for the first time, kind of getting a feel for it, for the structure of it, understanding the sequence, and seeing how students are engaging, things that we might be able to adjust or modify moving forward. And I would say that professional development is something that would definitely be great. We've had some opportunities. They've been virtual. And for those of us who've been able to attend, it's been really informative. And I think that sometimes teachers can't attend or haven't been able to, and I think it would be very ideal for other staff members to get some professional development just with some modeling or explicit instruction around how they could best utilize the materials. And I think we can also, for next year, focus on improving our communication with families. Open house in the beginning of the year, we had materials, we provided an introduction to what this was, but I think we can go even deeper with that and kind of also help show them our curriculum, like in some of the goals that students have, and just the ongoing instruction that's informed through student data, through formative and summative assessments, and teachers can continuously improve their practice and adjust to meet the needs of the students. So it has been, in my experience so far, it's been very positive. And I think that there are a lot of really rich materials, and I think this is helping students go just beyond the basic, just basic reading fluency. All of these foundational skills are important, but there's also the potential for deeper thinking, having an equity lens, and developing technological skills, as well as critical thinking. So I am definitely endorsing this curriculum. I think it's great.
Nice.
Great. Thanks for that. Yeah, so the collaboration, so do you and several other teachers, do you, like, is there any kind of overlap of the coursework? So, kind of, flows from one course to another, as far as, like you were talking about the lightning thief, with this.
Yeah.
Do you collaborate with the history teacher?
Yeah, great question. So with the 5th and 6th grade, we have a humanities teacher, and we collaborate. So we'll focus on like the literature, the text, and then she'll expand on like the geography of Greece and the history of ancient Greece and make connections that way. With 7th and 8th grade, it's humanities and ELA kind of infused. So a lot of these topics are covered in one classroom setting. But yeah, there's a lot of potential to integrate content here. So, thank you. But that's what we're seeing for just our initial rollout.
So it's rich enough and authentic enough that the kids can really buy into it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
yeah,
well, that's key.
It's key, yeah. It's a good choice of literature.
Great.
Yeah.
Bill?
Two questions for Jeff, but this is really, sounds like an enormously exciting program. My first question is, could you just highlight the key differences in this curriculum with the curriculum that preceded it? And my second question is, when and how will you be able to start measuring the results of what we've been hearing about tonight?
Okay, that's a great question. So each module, these are thematic units, and they have ongoing formative assessments for the classroom teacher to use, so exit tickets essentially, or students are creating written work that is a summation of what they've learned. They have projects with rubrics that they can use as like a final project after a unit. In terms of, well, first of all, I'm straining to remember what we used as our curriculum last year. I wasn't in the classroom role, so I don't have a, I don't know if there was a specific one. I don't think there was.
There wasn't at that.
Yeah, it was basically the teacher's best judgment using certain books, and there would be some spelling embedded into the classroom, writing projects, but there wasn't one real cohesive, structured curriculum that everyone was kind of using. And in terms of other growth that we can see academically, we can use this to gauge what areas students need to focus on. in terms of specific skills, whether it's their writing. And again, because of the differentiation, a lot of students aren't always at the level where they can really do all the expected work, but we can modify it to the point where we're focusing on some more basic skills to get them there. But what was your question, Bill, about basically assessments?
Yeah, for instance, we're in the middle, or will be in the middle of the VCAP testing of ELA and mathematics, and then also science for 8th graders and all that is. So will this, it sounds like a very exciting pilot program, be able to do well in those test instruments? Or are we talking about a need to kind of adjust the measurement system that the state has to fully capture the benefits of the program you've been describing?
That's a great question. This is our first year rolling it out, and we're doing the Vermont CAPS right now. So I will be curious to look at the results. I'm hoping that we're going to see growth. There's a lot of comprehension strategies that students can be learning, and I hope that they're learning. And this is one way that we'll probably be able to measure that to see if there has been growth. So that's a great question. We're probably going to have to look at the results, which we'll have access to soon. But a lot of the necessary skills are addressed, and we'll see if they're effectively being taken in.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, for us. Really appreciate it. It was great. All right, calendar.
So you all had a draft of the calendar in your packets. You also have a calendar here. Our chief academic officer for several years now has worked with a group of representative teachers and sometimes guardians and principals to create a calendar committee in regards to just continuing to tweak and hone in on our calendar. What I'm most excited to share this year is that we were able to finally get the statewide superintendent's organization to agree essentially on their December, not the December one?
I think February and April.
Definitely February and April. But I think most of it's pretty close.
Yeah.
But February and April, we've always had our families not always having one of them aligned throughout the entire state. February and April break are aligned next year. So we didn't need the legislature to do that. We could figure that out on our own.
And you guys chose the longer vacation for February.
You know, the trustees did that. I was just so excited and aligned. I just said, sounds great. Because it really impacted the center of the state the most, right?
Yeah.
And especially around us with school choice. So that was a huge kudos to the VSA to get that done. So just wanted you to see it. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to Anda. The calendar is not something we need you to take action on, but I just always like you to have it and to provide feedback around it. So my plan is to get that out in the projected last day of school to families by the end of this week, just so you'll know. I'll get them a copy of this in our projected last day.
That's great.
All right, follow-up from Community Town Hall Forum in Bethel. Anything to follow up there? I didn't make it, so people who made it, do you have things you want to share?
Yeah, I thought it was great. It was a good opportunity, a lot of people.
Nice.
And hearing from a couple of our legislators was great. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Spent too much time talking about the wrong bill. It's the Senate Ed bill we need to be focused on. So, I mean, there's issues that are central to both, but I think you could tell from the introduction that they understood how rapidly that was changing in Montpelier, and that's where the emphasis is really going to be. So I agree with you, we need to keep our eye on that.
I mean, I think the representatives there certainly articulate that they're supportive of what we're all advocating for, which is, local voice and not some type of like larger consolidation. It's busy right now in session. We only had 2, but the good news was we did have a senator, which is the first time we've had a senator join any of our opportunities. And we had a representative who I had not been able to interact with yet, who seemed supportive of the discussion. So.
Good. All right, any more conversation on it?
I will continue to convey my frustration at the fact that the plan is intended to lower costs of education, and there is still no data, and Michael said it much nicer at the meeting, that there's still no data that is backing up the proposal as a reduction of cost.
We also just have seen a litany at the federal level and the state level of these initiatives, Common Core, Act 46, just goes on to try and reform and improve education with no success. And what I wanted to do was turn to the audience and say, think of your favorite teacher, think of 3 descriptors, raise your hand and share them. And it's teachers who make the difference, and we need to be focusing on finding, training, and retaining and supporting really good educators, because those are the folks that are making a difference in our schools and for our kids.
Yeah.
And we don't talk about that. And I find it disturbing. So I think, the more we can do, at least in our arena, and you're doing it by thinking thoughtfully about professional development, thinking about school leadership teams, which are powerful in that regard. So I think the SU's doing a good job there. I just wish the state would focus on that more.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before as well. I would reiterate what you all are saying about the data, and I just can't believe that they're not modeling this and trying to figure out what's actually going to happen here, and to see if they're actually going to realize any savings, and that there's no pushback, and this just kind of feels like it's plowing forward. So I don't know.
Yeah, that blows my mind. And we're this far into the game,
right?
And there's still.
We have a governor that says he's going to veto everything if we don't get on some train.
Right.
It's disturbing all of itself.
Well, Jamie's encouraging us to write, and I think it's a good thing to do, and I think it's important to remind our legislators about Act 46 and 127, because they purported both to save us a lot of money, and they haven't done that. And I do agree that the movement here is to create organizational structures that are far enough removed from people in towns that we don't have access to them, and they're making decisions about our towns and our schools that we'll have absolutely no control over. And I would say, I didn't get up and say it, but in Sharon, the fact that we could sit down and have a conversation with our constituents about a bond issue, that's a lot of money. I mean, we're not kidding ourselves at $7.1 million. Is really significant, and I just don't know where and how that happens in a future setting that looks at, a grossly consolidated organizational structure. So, time to get those postcards out, emails.
All right, guys. But thanks for everybody that's participating and reading the emails and trying to be on top of things. I know that it's a lot. I've been a board member for a long time, and I feel like this is the most I've ever, and it's not just the Alliance. There's information everywhere. You could literally spend a day just sitting there trying to catch up on all the stuff that's out there. But the more informed we are, the better we'll be able to answer questions to our constituents and hopefully stop the train, as you would call it. All right, so we are on to interview director of special, no.
9.3.
Oh, board development, wagon wheel. We talked at our last meeting about trying to do wagon meetings in June and August. So we're gonna hopefully be sending schedules out for those when we get to those months. So look for doing our board meetings as a wagon wheel those nights. We're trying to cut down on our superintendent's nights out, and this is a good time of year for us to try to do that as our first step forward in getting the board meetings under control for him.
We also trying to do board development on those nights would be our goal, with the idea being that whether it's, we'll have hybrid options still, but the goal being that we're getting as many board members as we can engaging in some local board development. We were going to kick off our board development series, and I put this in my report, with the VSBA on April. I'm going to suggest we do that at May. We do have to reorg, but our reorg here is not that long at the full board level. Because then we have a bunch of new incoming members. We know of at least 2 in our SUD that will be joining the board. And Stacy, what do we expect in Granville Hancock?
At least, well, one member is definitely not going to accept a nomination if she's nominated, and the other would, but you never know how that's going to turn out.
So at least 3. So I didn't want to start that training.
Right, we might as well start it with everybody. So more to come in future on the meeting schedule and whatnot.
Sorry, just define what a wagon wheel meeting is.
It means, so it would be, all of our boards would get together as a full board, but each board would also have its own individual meeting.
Cool.
So, and we would break off into groups, and Jamie and Tara and stuff would fill in at each of those boards, and we get through our own individual board meeting, and then we'd have a full board meeting. So we'd do all those meetings in one night.
Great.
In one location.
In one location, and then we'd also.
Hybrid and in person.
Hybrid and in person, and then we'd also try to do the board development for, hopefully we get a lot of board members there and we can make that work. All right.
Jamie, would this be are you going to send out a Google, calendar thing? I mean, are you just going to pick dates in June and August? How's that going to?
No, what I'm going to try to do is figure out when we can get quorums from each of the boards. I mean, you all send 3 here, but Granville Hancock. So ideally, we could pull this together
At a
full board meeting night.
Okay, great, all right.
But does that mean there'd be no regular meetings?
Correct.
Right. It'd be one night.
Yes.
For every meeting.
Correct.
June and August.
Yep, okay.
We can do it. Hey,
How long will that take? With board development.
You're gonna
and
be
2
here all
board
night.
meetings. I mean, that's like, well, it is. Gonna be-
No, I mean,
It won't be more than 2 or 3 years.
my thought is like 3 hours.
They told me it was only 3. I'm in like year 4 now.
My thought is it may be 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like a 5:30 to 8:30.
because our agendas and our local boards are generally are lower in June and August. They're not terrible, so we don't have a lot to get through those 2.
Unless you're Sharon.
I'm just smiling because we go 3 hours on our own, but usually less than 3.
You need me to come to your meeting and help you get moving along. No, so
We'll keep this board meeting focused on development probably too.
yeah.
We just have to pass around a food sheet,
No, yeah, we would be able
They'll all
to
come.
eat, yes. I do think, I mean, I was gonna say it at the end, but I do think even tonight, just having this many board reps in person across the SU, I value it. It was nice to come together tonight in person with your membership earlier tonight and then also here, so.
I mean, and the one great thing about us all getting together is we get to, we don't get to meet each other. Kind of like we talk about our teachers working across the districts, and it's nice for us to be able to touch base. Some of us always come to the full board meetings, but not all of us. So a lot of us don't get to know each other. All right. Now can I do number 10?
Now we can.
Okay. Interview Director of Special Services.
Yes, so it's my pleasure here to introduce Rebecca Mortensen. as my recommended finalist for hire for the Director of Special Services for WRVSU. Our search committee interviewed really highly qualified candidates, and then I was able to interview 3 finalists from that committee that were all really well qualified for the position, which felt really good as a supervisory union. And through my process of interview, I'm always looking at like it probably gives you just good insight how I think. I always come back to my background in like sports and coaching, and I'm always looking at how do we create the best team. And I think the best team means that we complement each other's strengths. And what you'll see, I hope if you look at the principals we hire and central office admin we hire, is I'm not looking for the same model in regards to people's strengths. I'm really looking at how do we build a team that pushes each other, challenges each other, because that's how I believe organizations grow. So I'm not looking for the cookie cutter in regards to like what we want in a leader. I'm looking at how does this leader push our team forward, and also like support areas of where I see our weaknesses. And as an organization in regards to special services, I'm very interested in us strengthening our work universally around best meeting kids through universal design by learning in our classrooms by using adaptive technology, making certain we're providing our teachers with strong professional development in regards to inclusionary practices, and making certain that we are training up special educators to do strong work in the area of supporting students who may have, need support around neurodivergence, but also in regards to global cognitive need or Down syndrome. So there's just some areas in our organization where I see us needing growth and expertise. And throughout my interview process and research that I did in regards to checking formal references, but the nice thing in this state, you can check lots of informal references, is that Rebecca really rose to the top for me throughout this process of that her expertise is going to align to some areas of our weakness that I'm really excited about in regards to opportunity to grow our system forward. So that became clear to me through that process that Ms. Mortensen was the right person to bring forward to you tonight. So I'd love to have Rebecca introduce herself, talk to you a little bit about why she pursued WRVSU, and then certainly be open up to all board members for questions.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all. Yeah, as Jamie said, it is a small state, so when I came here, I was like, I don't know who I'm gonna walk in to see, and if they're gonna be like, oh God, not that girl. So thank you for welcoming me so warmly. It was nice to just walk in with some people and get a vibe. So I've been in the education field I started as a para many moons ago, became a special educator, and I found my niche and my passion was working with students who are neurodivergent in a variety of ways. Typically, I found the ones that are hardest to find a place for in the classroom are the ones who are highly verbal, and so it's easy to overestimate their abilities at different times. And so those were the kids that I'm just drawn to working with, students with multiple disabilities that include a trauma background and emotional and behavioral disabilities. So that was kind of what I fell into along the way. I played many roles, but my most recent teaching career was in that. You all know Annette. She was my most recent in the world of education, things changed really quickly. Before I became director, she was my director before that. When she left, we had a hard time filling that void. And Annette is somebody that I really respected because of her personal touch and her ability to connect with staff and raise them up. And when she left, we couldn't find somebody to take that. And I was like, I want to be that. So that's when I pursued my my admin licensure. stepped into that role, and Annette reached out to me when she realized that she was going to leave. This is the only position. I wasn't looking. I've been in Barry for a long time. I have great connections. It's a community. I'm going to get a little emotional because I love my students and I love my staff and I love my colleagues. But she reached out to me and said, here's an opportunity. I think you might want to pursue it. And I thought about it. I was like, yeah, I think I'm ready for that next step in my career, to be able to work more systems change. And I'm at a point in my personal life where community is really important to me. And I've always been in a big school. So I like the thought of coming to such richly supported community schools here. That's me in a nutshell.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Can we ask some questions?
Yeah.
I mean, when I read what you've done with your work and hear Jamie and you talk, it seems like there's some real synchronicity to what the SU is trying to do and the background that you bring. So it seems like it's a great fit. I just have a question, and it's just curious. It's not a threshold to pass through or something, but you talk about you've worked with teams to build bridges between special education and general ed to support educators in their understanding of teaching neurodivergent students. Can you just give us an example or two of something you thought that's worked out pretty well that way?
Yeah, so I've taught a couple of courses around neurodivergence in the classroom, so that was a great starting point. Some teachers were maybe encouraged to take the course, and some people chose to, so I could get a vibe of, okay, here, you look like a really great settler who would be willing to implement these strategies in the classroom, and then we'll, bring some other people on board. So I used the framework from a student, or a book, called When Labels Don't Fit, which has been my Bible since, just laying it on the table. I work both sides of the special ed table. I'm a parent and I'm the special ed admin side. So everything I do through the lens of I want to improve special ed through my lens as a parent, and then I want to improve my parenting through, best practices in the education field. So I try to bring that into the classroom. So I took the lessons from this When Labels Don't Fit, which is everybody experiences the world in different ways along these 17 different facets. And how you experience the world is going to be different than, just about everybody. How do you find that center point between where you are and where the student is? And once you know the center point, as a teacher, it's our responsibility to move closer to them than to expect them to move closer to us. So that was some work I did in the classrooms. One clear example I can give, just because it's fresh in my mind, I just did some work with a team around the concept of students were having a really hard time coming back from breaks. So they have regulatory breaks in their schedule. That's great. That's a proven strategy in a lot of times. But it's hard for them to transition from a preferred activity back to the classroom. And I looked at it and I was like, how are you working on this transition? Well, we have a timer, we give a countdown, we give the 2 minutes, we give the 1 minute. The teacher's experience of time is different from the student's experience of time. So when the student says or hears, you've got 1 minute left, how they feel that minute is very different. The teacher's like, come on, you've got a minute left. I need you to go back to class. It's taking forever. And the student's like, you're rushing me. I only have 1 more minute. So for them to be able to have some control over it and instead say you have 1 more minute, say you have 1 more turn, or how will I know that you're done, and give them a discrete end to it so that the experience of time no longer becomes that conflict between the two.
Great, thank you. Good example.
More questions?
I mean, I got a million questions, but we don't want to be here all night. So.
Do you have questions for, yeah, and then she may have questions for the board.
Stacy?
Hi, welcome. Very delighted to meet you. Lovely to hear your background. As I'm sure you're aware, one of the areas where we've struggled is in kind of retention, and so I'm just wondering what your approach to team building and culture is.
Yeah, I think a lot of it goes back to communication with the team. This is, a question and something I had talked with Annette, I talked with Jamie a little bit about how you can make connections with buildings, because that's very different to me. I've been building based for so long. But I think it's really important just to connect on a personal level and a professional level with your staff, so that they feel that they can come to you when there's a need, along with a level of supportive supervision. So I have mentioned this before. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Listening Leader, which is by Shane Safier, and it lists 4 different types of adult ways of knowing. So it's figuring out what is the staff's way of knowing compared to mine. Again, where is that match? And how can I help that staff grow from where they are, accept the feedback versus that way of knowing, use it and help them grow to that next level of development. I don't know if that answered your question exactly, but it's just a lot of connection and communication, really, for that support. As well as, I think, really, I was impressed looking at your calendar tonight and seeing how many professional development opportunities there are for that time, for that hands-on training. What we do in our district currently is kind of like a I do, we do, you do model, where we present something. 2 weeks later, we have a follow-up meeting where in smaller groups, we work through how might we apply this. And then monthly, I meet one-on-one with each staff as to how is it going for you? What do you need to be able to do better with this?
Great, thank you.
More questions? Do you have questions for us?
Oh my gosh, I have so many questions, but you also need to go home today. I'm just one of those really curious people. I love to know how things work. So I've watched a few board meetings just to kind of get a feel for the culture here. And I loved how collegial it was and how student-focused it was. So I would love also just to get to know like the smaller boards too, and what the tenor is on those. But I guess my question that I had asked at my first interview, seeing like you're at the end of your 5-year plan is up at the end of 2025, is like what big thing is next for you, and where do you feel that the district should tackle, or what would be your next, gosh, I wish we could get there?
Somebody want to take that one?
That's a big question.
I know, that's a big question. Any takers?
Bill, you're always visioning. Come on, I thought you'd jump into this.
I'm not sure I heard it that well, so.
That's what I wondered. Do you want to repeat it?
Sure, yeah. Just when I was looking over materials from the district to get to know it a little bit, I saw that you were at the end of your 5-year plan, so I was wondering what that next big envisioning was for you guys, or what you felt was that next hurdle that you wanted to tackle.
Yeah, well, one of the strengths of our supervisory union is vision, and that's strategically looking at the future and looking at what we're doing while we're here, what our mission is, and figuring out, defining a strategy going forward with a definition of what we want to do, why, and what the outcome is going to be. And that's an extremely important management tool that we did under Jamie's leadership, and we're concluding the 5th year. And it's a plan that was involved the entire organization, from the board to the superintendent and his administrative team, to the principals, to the teachers. And I think there's the strength of that was the amount of buy-in that the plan resulted in. And so we need now to be thinking ahead with all the turbulence at the state level, funding, federal level, but where are we going to try to go? Where are we going to try to steer our ship of state? And so that's going to be a very important goal for the board and the superintendent to develop the plan over the next several months, and then getting buy-in and going after that. The nice thing about our organization is that there's very little conflict. I could say at the board level. I think we appreciate that we bring different strengths, interests, passions to the table. We respect each other. We listen very well. We learn. I'd be very surprised that any of us leave a board meeting without saying, gee, I didn't know that. So that's another strength that this supervisory union has that you're going to be hopefully joining, is a partnership feeling at all levels. Certainly the professional development and how that's progressed, strengthened, and utilized to enormous benefit of each school and each skill set. So yeah, this is, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say we're still excited about what this is all about. And we happen to believe that we're making a difference, and we're here because we want that difference to be moving in the right direction and the right speed, working together.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say for me, like, we have pre-K in a lot of our buildings now. We have a high school. Some of us have choice, so we go to different high schools, but knowing that from the time our kids enter the building and by the time they leave our system, they're good citizens. They have the tools that they need to go on to whatever the next step may be. So if it's an 8th grader, they have the tools to go on to whichever high school they pick. If they're a high school student and they're leaving, they have the tools. And I think as a board that that's what we're all working toward and we want for our kids, and a lot like our portrait of our learner and things that I think we want to build on that, and making sure all of our students, not just the students that are destined for college, but the students that are whatever they choose to do, have a plan.
And I do like how we also, you know, not just the students, but it's also the communities. You know, we really, you know, reach out and try to be as transparent as possible, and as far as, and also just to kind of put our faces out there, kind of be seen, and let them know that we're there.
Great.
I would say that in the time that Jamie's been here, there's been a real focus on collaboration. And that's across the board. And as we include more students, people get more on board, we work on leadership teams in schools, that really that's the initiative. And out of that collaboration will come ideas for us to try and implement. But for me, that's the goal. It's so complex out there. The needs are so diverse. Our children and families are so challenged that, you know, it's just not something we can do on our own. We really need to collaborate effectively. So looks like you have a strong background in that regard, and it's great.
Yeah, I mean, this is a very complex world, and nobody has the answer, and nobody can do it alone.
But we thought you had it.
I'm sorry, I forgot to bring the special ed magic wand tonight. I appreciate just how I can hear pride when you guys are talking about your board and your district, and that's really heartening and heartwarming to hear. So thank you for sharing.
I think you will find a board that is in a good place and working well together, and therefore supporting its staff and faculty. I don't think that we would have said that necessarily 20 years ago. So, and every board and every district goes through swings. It just happens to be that a few years ago somebody decided to hire a good administrator to lead us through improvement, and we are reaping the benefits of that now. And all the work that the rest of the staff does. It's not one person. It's the way the whole ship has moved since then.
All right. Anything else you want to ask us?
No, I know that it's getting late. I appreciate your openness and the opportunity to be here with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming and telling us about yourself. It's great.
Just on an executive session.
And then we need to go to what's left.
Yep.
Right, so we
I
need
think you can let everyone else go.
Okay, we'll just invite you.
Yep.
We need an executive session. is
Rebecca, you can wait if you
motion,
want. I
and
mean,
just
we'll
invite the
come
superintendent.
back into public
Okay.
if you'd like.
Yeah.
You can just wait outside.
Or she can go home and
Make a
Or
motion.
she can go
Make a
home.
motion to go into
Some-
executive session.
Some candidates
And invite
like
the
to wait.
superintendent.
There's no
And
pressure.
invite the
I
superintendent.
said I wanted to
Do I
go
have a
and
second?
experience a board meeting, so
Second.
I'm happy to come back. All right.
So I'm moving that we leave executive session.
Second.
All right, so moved.
So you need a motion?
Yes.
So I moved to empower the superintendent to negotiate a contract with Rebecca Mortensen for Director of Special Services.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
All right, hearing none. You're so empowered, Jamie.
Thank you.
And thank you and welcome.
She still has to accept.
We're welcoming you.
Okay, now I'm going to ask all the questions.
All right, wait, she's going to keep us here later. We're going to reconsider your contract.
With a stipulation.
This isn't varied meetings. 11:30.
We're not going to stay here past midnight?
This is late for us.
Okay.
All right, what else do we got going on?
So there's some new hires that I just wanted to bring your attention to. They're in Annette's report. And they will be listed under this agenda item in regards to new hires for special education. I just want to note to all of you that Carissa has started and is serving currently at Chelsea and is doing a really nice job there in First Branch. So we were lucky to be able to hire someone during the year who is a veteran special educator, licensed special educator, and was able to start. So we got nothing in that regard.
Nice. It's not temporary, we just keep her.
Nope, she's going to stay with us.
And can we assume that Lindsay is related to Kathy?
Nope, don't know her.
She is. No, good question. We're really excited about Lindsay.
Yeah.
Lindsay's going to be coming to us as a special educator starting next year. And
Second daughter.
we're really excited about some programming she's going to be able to provide some of our students. So
Great.
good about that.
Yes. So excited.
Shows Michael too, he was her.
I don't have any resignations to share right now, which is good.
That's
That's
good
a good
news.
thing.
Nice. Anything else? And there's no public on still, right? Public?
No, I do have a comment to make that it's okay to put in the public comment section, if I may. So every year, we sort of ramp up for our public informational meetings or our public meetings. And this school district spends an incredible amount of time and effort individually and collectively to put those meetings together and to be successful at meetings. And I want to express my gratitude to Ray, to Damie, to Tara, who's no longer here, and to Anda, and to our principal, who spend the time and the effort to make those meetings successful, because even though it may be a part of their job, they do it well and they do it with grace, and I'm just grateful.
I would agree.
Here, echo. Yeah. And also, you have a speaker that works, you know. That was brutal. That was hard
Ray
to watch.
doesn't know about that yet. Yes.
Before, we used to the boards used to put these reports together and used to figure out budgets, and I'm so glad you never get to leave.
Listen, you guys too. That's right, and we're gearing up.
No accolades yet, buddy.
We're gearing up. We're gearing up for Arsad and Jihad.
All right, and future agenda items, which we talked about, we're going to do the wagon wheels, and our next meeting date is Tuesday, April 22nd.
Real quick before you adjourn, our policy committee members that are here tonight, we've got a lot of policy to work. Can we do a 5 that night?
I'm not part of the committee anymore. I'll probably attend, but don't look at me.
That's right. That's about how I'll check.
Wait, no. How did you get off the committee?
I can't answer
Get
that.
off the committee.
He may so come advise. You're right, I'm just so used to you being on it. Sorry about that. I'll check. Could you do 5, or is that a challenge for you?
What is the date?
It'll be that 22nd.
Of April?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, as long as there's plenty of notice.
Okay.
Yes, good.
Okay, so let's plan on that, and I'll
Okay.
put an email out to the whole committee.
So wait, he's getting,
I'll be
I
there
see
anyway.
why you're encouraging people to be board members now, so you can get out of committees. I see. That's the trick, huh? All right. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, we are adjourned.